Arratsaldeon, excelentísimas, ilustrísimas.
Good afternoon, authorities, Rector, Deputy President of the Chamber of Commerce of Bilbao, Deputy Regional Minister of Technology, Innovation and Digital Transformation of the Basque Government, Local Head of Economical Promotion of Bilbao, ladies and gentlemen, and speakers. Welcome to everybody. This is the 8th Inspiring Women's Leadership, IWL. Thanks so much for receiving us at this beautiful morning. Our startup community has as its mission to reduce the digital gap with 4 areas of work. This international congress, which brings together all the players of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, our observatory that actually shows through true data how it's evolving and the barriers and data that are out there. And then the prizes that we give to SDGs with the Royal Academy of Engineering and Medicine. And then different collaborations with universities. Currently, 17% of startups are founded or co-founded by women. We need to be patient, but also impatient at the same time to carry on improving this figure. When we started, it was only 6%. Women need to learn from what is new so that we can also be stars of this emerging economy, which, according to the World Economic Forum, is an economy which is worth 2.3 trillion euro, and the whole of society should be there. That's why we in the W startup community concentrate on the 4 areas I mentioned earlier, because we feel that the best practices will contribute to inspire and encourage people to find new ways of dealing with business. This is how we've managed to have an impact on 10,000 women of 22 different countries. I should like to say thank you to all the corporations, institutions that have supported us in the organizing committee itself, for the effort that they've made in making this happen. Thanks to everybody that's here in the room and all of you that are connecting from abroad for following us and for inspiring everybody with your energy. This is going to be broadcast and streaming over social media, so it's all a matter of innovation, enjoying this event. Our hashtag is out there. It's up there. Thank you so much. And I'm now going to hand the floor over to the next speaker. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the University of Deusto. Thanks so much, Teresa. Firstly, I'd like to say thanks to the organizing committee, women's startup community, to the sponsors as well for choosing Bilbao and Deusto University for having chosen here to hold this 8th Congress. And also welcome to all the authorities, to those from the entrepreneurial ecosystem, to the speakers and listeners, and to all of those that are here with us today, both in person and remotely throughout the whole of the world, because you're concentrating on female leadership around the world. In such a changing world, and we're talking here about the VUCA environment, volatility, including magnetity, we've also got BANI as well, which is fragility, need and injustice. I think it's actually necessary to align our initiatives with society's needs and the challenges that we have to face today. All of us makes us think our structures, our courses, and concentrating more on finding a response to these challenges as an institution that works to build a fairer, more human world. We have a special responsibility in making effective this right to gender equality, something that's being boosted by this Congress, and more specifically in encouraging women's leadership in the current digital area. And in fact, talking about that specifically, there's a couple of projects I'd like to mention. The first is Inspire STEAM. Mariluz Genagas is actually in charge of that. She'll be taking part at one of the seminars tomorrow, and it aims to inspire girls in technology and economy and encourages girls to get involved in science, research and technology. And the second is the Ala Byron Prize, which we presented last Thursday. It was created in 2014 by the engineering faculty with the goal to make women more visible in the world of technology, recognizing their important work and also bringing these professions closer to teenagers and to make the whole of society aware of how important they are. So I encourage all women here to send in their candidacy or to encourage others to do so. As social transformation agents, we universities are key in encouraging innovative entrepreneurial attitudes, and thus to do that in a cross-cutting way. In Deusto University, we have what we call Deusto Emprende, which is an entrepreneurial and innovation unit, and also Garbiñe Henry, who's here with us today from Deusto Emprende. They've also supported the organization of this event. To carry out their main task in the ecosystem, the university ecosystem, we've also got the Deusto entrepreneurial model, which puts people at the heart of a model. And its purpose is for there to be a lifelong accompanying, not just whilst they're here studying, but throughout their lives, to get greater socioeconomic welfare. To give an example, in the world of women's entrepreneurs, we're supporting Mademoiselle Basque in Soir, who this was born in the Entrepreneur Creation Center in Bilbao, which encourages artists, women artists, and brings together technology, entrepreneurship and art. And we've got the person behind that here amongst the audience today. And to finish, I wanted to say that in Deusto we are interested and concentrating on cross-cutting skills. And one of these skills is entrepreneurship, innovation and creativity, something that's key for Deusto students to be able to progress and to find solutions to current challenges and transform our society. Because what we want are people who together transform the world. We're very, very proud to take part of these kind of initiatives, so that together people can concentrate on the needs of society, encouraging transformation and seeking a direct impact on people's welfare. Once again, thanks so much to everybody that's here with us today for all their dedication, engagement and commitment. Thank you once again and welcome.
Tiene la palabra la vicepresidenta de la Cámara.
And now we're going to hear from the Deputy Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thanks for choosing Bilbao for holding this event. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to take part in this Congress and also to take part with a few words about entrepreneurship, a concept which is part of VIII DNA and, of course, of the Chamber of Commerce. Ever since it was founded, the Chamber, over its 138 years of existence, has been reinventing it and getting involved in new projects and encourage others as well to provide services to the companies of this territory. Last year we presented 2 reports. Firstly, a new strategic plan, and secondly, the declaration of the Chambers of Commerce of the Atlantic arc. Here we spoke about entrepreneurship, digitalization, SGE, and also 2 years ago we decided to think about what we want for the future of Bizkaia in the upcoming decades. And this became a book called Bizkaia 2050, which was coordinated and prepared by Jonathon. It also mentions entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is considered as a key factor if we're going to become a inclusive, democratic, prosperous society, an attractive place where people can develop their professional and personal life skills and where companies can find competitiveness and welfare. As you can see, we're worried about this subject and we take charge of it in everything that we do, because entrepreneurship at the end of the day is one of the best things that we have to achieve the future that we want. And to do so, we need to have entrepreneurs. We need to assist them in their future, to help create enterprises in the future. That requires a great deal of work and engagement. We want entrepreneurs, but to do so, we need to get everybody on board. We should be able to pinpoint the needs that aren't currently covered and respond to them. And we also need to look at new ways of doing things in training by including new training courses and assisting teachers. We also need to be entrepreneurs when we work for an organization. That's why it's also important to increase this support that we offer. And of course, we need to encourage intra-entrepreneurship within institutions. In the Chamber of Commerce, we've seen that it's necessary to encourage everything related to ESG regulations. And to do so, we've created a new area of activity called the Bizkaia Sustainability Hub. So we're going through very swift changes. This is an era of swift changes. We need to try to find solutions to current society's needs and the company's needs. We need professionals that are able to help us to face up to the constant challenges that we have ahead of us. So that helps us to face also the challenges that are derived from the energy transition, and that can contribute to reduce the impact of climate change and lead us in the process of digitalization, and in short, are able to dream with the world of the future and guide us towards it. In our favor, we live in an area that's open to innovation, new ideas and projects. Bizkaia is a good place for all of these, and in the Bilbao Chamber of Commerce, you always have us at your entire disposal for all of this. Thank you so much.
Concejal de Bilbao, de Desarrollo Económico, Comercio y Empleo,
Javier Achandiano, the local councillor for Economic Development, Trade and Employment. Thank you so much, Teresa. Dear friends, Ainara Estebliz and Virginia, I'm going to say a few words about my role as the local councillor for economic development here at this session. All of us need leaders. In our case, there's an important person which is Felisa Ramos, and I'd like to thank her for the opportunity and for the positive encouragement that she gives to the City Council to take part of these initiatives, to her and all of her team. And as my colleagues here, Ainara Estebliz also, I'm just going to say a few words, because when I'm at these kind of meetings about women entrepreneurs, I don't see any men. I'm clearly a man, but I think it's awful that there are no men there. There's going to be no real equality if we men don't feel co-responsible for equality. There are some men, I apologize for that, but very few. And I sincerely think that that shouldn't be like that. This is an open conference to men and women, and of course, today and tomorrow there are going to be many experiences explained to us by great, marvelous women. But in my small job, I always try to find this side of equality. And in fact, I'm going to have to leave a bit earlier because I'm going to have to go and collect my small children from music lesson because my wife is working. That's real life for you. I'm going to have to hand the floor over to Ainara shortly, but I'd like to just say, put an appeal out there to those that actually aren't here today, because there aren't very many of you. That's men, and we need to be co-responsible for equality. Thank you so much.
Viceconsejera de Tecnología.
Deputy Minister for Technology, Innovation and Digital Transformation of the Basque Government, Ms. Estibaliz Ernaiz. She's saying a few words in Basque. When she reverts to Spanish, we'll be back with this broadcast.
Eta Deustuko Unibertsitateari beraien etxean hartxagatik. Inspiring Women Leaders in the Digital Era celebra hoy.
Inspiring Women Leaders in the Digital Era is going to be holding its 8th conference today and tomorrow. The main challenge of this conference is to carry on being a benchmark of support for female and women's entrepreneurship and to support all those initiatives that are taking place in the Basque Country and connect them up to international ecosystem. In fact, the leitmotif for this 8th edition is creating a sustainable future. So in the different panel sessions, they'll be talking about how technology can provide a catalyst for solutions to problems that are both economic and professional. So I'm sure there'll be interesting debates around the need to combine technology, innovation, sustainability, and of course diversity. If we say that digital transformation is radically changing all the different phases of society and economy, is by no means a surprise if I say that today. What actually is not dealt with is how we're going to prepare ourselves with the sustainability shift that we're going to see with that through a digital transformation, not just from an environmental sustainability viewpoint, but also when I refer to economic, financial, industrial, educational, demographic, political, and social sustainability. Because it's not just that disruptive technologies, the existence and the emergence of disruptors can obtain sustainability in the long term thanks to their leverage effect. It's also that digitalization in its own right should be sustainable, and this is by no means an easy task. I feel that both are vital, both transitions are inseparable. There are many, many examples. For example, the adoption of digital solutions and data for transition towards a climate-neutral economy, replacement of business travel by video conference, the use of digital technologies for less intensive processes in greenhouse gas emissions, for example, urban planning, buildings, and others. In short, both of these concepts, digitization and the green economy, should actually be closely tied. Digital transition and the environmental transition need to create an alliance. I'd also like to mention how important it is to encourage women in the field of technology, something that the rector has already mentioned, supporting scientific and technological training and inspiring professions in the area of STEAM subjects are goals that are strategic for the Department of Environment Department that I represent here today, and of course for the Basque government as a whole. A field where we're also concerned about the reduced presence and visibility of girls, and once they're trained, of course, of women. So finally, a mention of entrepreneurship. According to a recent study in the Basque Country published a few months ago, after the landmark that was achieved in the previous report, in which entrepreneurial women were actually more numerous than men, we can say that the Basque Country has reached at least a quantitative level of equality. We've overcome a 5-point difference between entrepreneurial men and women, and now there's no relevant difference between women and men's entrepreneurial activity. Both men and women have similar ages and similar education, but actually many women have fewer skills in financial areas and usually have less finance when they start an entrepreneurial project. That's why it's so important, these events such as Inspiring Women Leaders, which this is the 8th time it's been held. And that's why it's so important, because it's a place where we can learn, we can find inspiration and connect. Once again, a few words in Basque.
Eta jasangarritasun saila ibilbide horri bat prestatzen ari da, emakumeek Euskadiko enpresa ekosistemari eta ekintzailetzari ekiten dioten ekarpena ikustarazteko eta onarpena bultzatzeko. Eskerrik asko zuen arretagatik eta interesgarriena oraintxe entzungo dugu. Espero dut gaurko eta biharko jardunaldiak interesgarriak izatea. Mila esker.
Diputada de Promoción Económica de Bilbao, Ainara Basurto.
Now, Ainara Basurto, who's the local head of economic promotion for Bilbao. Thank you so much, Teresa. And good afternoon, everybody. A few words in Basque.
Startup community osatzen duzuen guztioi, Bizkaiko Foru Aldundia gonbidatzeagatik ekitaldi honetara. Eta baita, sarrera ekitaldi honetan parte hartzeko aukera eman didazuelako. Honetaz gain, eskerrak eman ere, Deustuko Unibertsitatearekin batera egin duzuen antolaketa lan guztiagatik. Izan ere, ekitaldi honek aukera paregarea ematen digu esperientzia ezberdinak partekatzeko eta lehen eskutik iritzi eta proposamen berriak ezagutzeko. Uste dut, hemen gauden guztiok oso kontziente garela, horrela geratu delarik islatuta nire aurretik hitza hartu dutenen mezuetan, aurrera pausuak ematen direla, baina baita oraindik bide luzea dugula zeharkatzeko enpresa munduko esparruan eta abiadura ere ez dela behar besteko azkarra. En efecto, seguimos constatando.
Yes, we're still seeing that there's still a long way to go, and the speed that we're traveling at isn't optimum. That's why the Economic Promotion Department of the Provincial Government of Bizkaia is working in 3 main areas where we feel additional effort is required. Firstly, in the inclusion of women in management posts and on the boards of companies. Secondly, to achieve a greater women's presence in technological fields, and especially in everything related to the digital translation, but in industry in general as well. And thirdly, increasing the presence of women in advanced entrepreneurship. To achieve this, we support an important set of measures, but today I'm just going to talk about 3 of them. Firstly, promoting the visibilization of those women that are already in our companies. It's true, we want there to be more. We want to achieve 50% at all different management levels, but we've already got a pretty large number of women in management posts and leading different entrepreneurial initiatives. Society needs to know them, especially young women, so they've got benchmarks so that they know that they can also get as far as they want to, like other women have done before them.
Guzti hauek ezagutzea. Gazteek, emakume hauek euren erreferente eta inspirazio izatea. Lagunduko dielako mugarik jarri ez diezaioten euren ibilbide profesionalari. Bigarrenik, nos hemos comprometido con el talento.
Secondly, we're committed to talent, together with an important group of businesses and organizations in Vizcaya, to generate, attract, and promote STEM talent. If we want to inspire the business fabric specifically about the need for STEM skills, and if we want to attract people, it's impossible to do that without spending special dedication on that 50% of the population, that is women, and get them to develop all of their talent and their potential. We know that young women actually move away from technology and business because they can't see how these help the welfare of society. It's our challenge to explain how research and technology helps and cures people. We saw that during the pandemic. We need to explain that companies that transform those research projects into real products are necessary to improve our quality of our life.
Alegin berezia egin behar dugu. Gure enpresa ehunaren eta gizartearen lehiakortasunerako berrikuntza eta garapenak berebiziko garrantzia dauka. STEM ezagutzak garrantzitsuak izanik honetarako eta transizio digitalean konkretuki giltzarrizkoak. Y en tercer lugar, nos parece importante.
Thirdly, we think it's important to continuously pinpoint those hidden obstacles that are out there. We make a tremendous effort to carry out our work with purple glasses. So, because to do away with inequalities, you need to see them first. All businesses in the Basque Country know that they cannot lose women workers. In fact, they completely the opposite. They need to attract more women. That's why all companies have to have a special focus on women. What should be done for these women to see companies, especially if it's an industrial company, as a friendly environment, an environment that's going to help that person get as far as they can without any glass ceilings, without any limits, as far as the management, as far as board, as far as the chairmanship or CEO, or even take the initiative to set up their own business project. When you discover there's a new opportunity with the security that the complete ecosystem that exists in our territory is going to be there to assist you, so that no obstacle gets in your way just because you're a woman. I always like to end by a call to action. Each and every one of us needs to take steps on a day-to-day basis in our personal and professional fields, showing in practice where we are when we talk about equality, gender equality. Are we part of the solution? Are we part of the problem?
Behar gara guztiok, egunero, soluzioaren parte izan behar gara. Ziur nago, jardunaldi hauek hainbat giltza emango dizkigutela aurrera pasoak emateko. Aurrera pauso hauek emakumeen parte hartze handiagoan islatu behar dira. Emakumeen parte hartze zabalagoa, besteak beste, murgilduta gaudeneko transizio digitalerako. Asko daukagu jokoan, eta emakumeen talentuak zeresan handia dauka. Eskerrik asko, arretagatik.
Tiene la palabra Susana Solís.
And now Susana Solís, who's going to tell us about the first roundtable, which is going to be on generative AI. Thank you to the people that have welcomed us.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Un placer estar aquí representando al Parlamento Europeo. Yo tengo la suerte de conocer.
It's a pleasure to be here and to represent the European Parliament. In fact, I know you because just a few months ago we were at the European Parliament at the Equality Commission that I belong to in the Parliament, and there we debated the barriers that female entrepreneurs have and that everything that the European Union can do to help those of you who are entrepreneurs. It's also great to introduce this roundtable, how AI can open opportunities to create sustainable value. This is something I've been very engaged in because, as you know, the EU has been pioneering and has improved the first law on AI in the world. It is necessary, this legislation, but the negotiations were complicated because it was difficult to strike a balance between this need to respect fundamental rights and European values and encouraging Europe to lead in these technologies without falling into over-regulation, but at the same time being agile and flexible. In the end, when we were about to vote on this law, we knew it was necessary because all of a sudden ChatGPT appeared. And this was something that we hadn't actually even included in the initial Commission proposal, but we've reached an agreement. The law was passed in December last year. There are safeguards, there are obligations to be transparency, to avoid fake news. There's also the protection of IP. But when we talk about AI, I like to talk about the opportunities that it offers us, the tremendous potential of this potential, and the tremendous positive impact that it's going to have on our society and our welfare. And who better than to talk about that than you? I'm looking forward to listening to you. And so, without further ado, I'm going to hand the floor over to Ariadna Font, who's the CEO and co-founder of Stealth Startup.
Hola, muy buenas.
Good afternoon. I'm Ariadna Font. I'm an expert in AI and the development of a product for companies before being an entrepreneur. I worked in a startup in IBM. I also worked for Twitter when it was still called Twitter, and I led teams in charge of creating the machine learning platform. It's great to be able to take part in this roundtable on AI, on generative AI, in this 8th Inspiring Women Leaders in the Digital Area, which is being held in Deusto, Bilbao. I wanted to start by, by the way, my talk is going to be about a more sustainable, responsible generative AI. And I'm going to talk about the benefits and limitations of this technology to start with. To start, I wanted to share the principles of transparency and trust that have been created by my colleagues in IBM. There are different kinds of them, but these are simple and easy to understand, and they're important for me to put to you. The purpose of AI, firstly, is to increase human intelligence and improve the quality of life of everybody. AI has the potential to make us better at work, and the benefits of the AI era should actually reach everybody, not just a few privileged people. So quite clearly, this is something, or rather the access to this technology shouldn't be a barrier. What's more, data belong to their creators. Your data are yours, and government policies on data should be fair and equal. The third principle is that technology should be transparent and explainable. Companies should know and be clear about who is in their AI systems, what data are used, and what's included in the algorithms. Even if the companies haven't develop them internally. They can't just say, oh, we don't know about this because we're using a different supplier. They should be informed, because in the end, legislation means that each company or each person that uses it is going to be responsible for use. That's why education is so important. It's so important to understand how these models work, where data come from and how they've been trained. To try to demystify this technology, it's necessary to know what's behind it. So I'm going to start by understanding what's behind generative AI, these large models, language models, or LLMs. You've probably heard a lot about them. But what are these LLMs? Basically, a language model is a computational model which allocates probabilities to symbol sequences based on the frequency and context of these symbols in a large amount of text. In these huge models, text corpuses is the whole of internet, in addition to other corpuses as well. We're talking here about a huge number of examples, or a huge number of texts that are used to train. This idea is by no means new. We've been using these language models for many decades now for processing natural language. In this example that you can see here, the model learns to predict the next word based on the previous words according to different probabilities. For example, in this case, a language model should know that the words books are or laptops appear after the word there. In this case, it's students open their rather than minds. AI actually reflects that dependency and creates a more coherent text. And it's also a text that can evolve with the uses that we make with our day-to-day objects. It's not something static, but something dynamic that we use. So if you're training on an old corpus, 50-year-old corpus, or a current corpus, then of course these will change. So it's different. You need to remember that. When we talk about LLMs, we're talking about language models that have thousands of millions of parameters. What's changed recently and what's new is the amount of data that's out there to train these models. We're talking about terabytes. These models have GPT-4, for example, has trained on billions of parameters. This graph is GP3, which has 65 billion, whereas GPT-4 has 100 billion parameter. And why are so many parameters needed to entrain? You might be wondering. Well, because it's been shown that, at least to date, the number of parameters using these transform architecture actually gives better quality of text generation and the better generational capacity of this model. And you see this now. For example, what are these skills of LLMs? For example, what LLMs do is they predict and generate good quality text, and sometimes do that better than humans do. And you can see this now. For example, a model, the same model can be used for a whole series of tasks which we in the past used specific models for. For example, models that were trained to converse, to translate, or to summary. But as the number of parameters have increased so much, just one model, such as GPT-3 or GPT-4, can actually do all of these tasks without you having to change anything. Then the way you interact with the model, you just ask it a question, a different kind of question or a different prompt. And this is really important because you don't need to have any initial knowledge, know how to interact with these models, although that is useful too. That's what makes these models so powerful? The fact that they can generalize. Let's look at some examples. You've probably played around with these models as well, but when you ask ChatGPT, what sort of weather do you get in Bilbao in February? It gives me a fairly detailed response. You can see that on the screen. And the same model I can use to translate, for example, can you translate the title of my talk into English? And it gives me a good translation that I could use for the English version. Another way of using this model without actually having to change model or use a different model or even having to change the parameters is ask for a 15-word summary to describe in English the Argentina-France World Cup final and then translate it into English. I think it does it really well. It analyzes it pretty well without I having to have done anything. And to finish, the final specific example I want to give you is it can generate a slogan for a fruit juice brand that uses sustainable organic crops. The thing is, I can ask ChatGPT for 10 examples, and then I can choose whichever one I like most. So these most recent LLM models are great to help you with a brainstorming session. They're brilliant for that. In fact, better than just you on your own trying to think, and they help you with initial ideas. What happens with LLMs? Well, they have limitations. Despite the fact that they are evolving and they're of course good quality, they still make mistakes. And sometimes they generate plausible information but false. This is called hallucinations. They don't know how to differentiate between what's good and what's bad. They can therefore generate illegal, harmful, non-ethical content. They can make mistakes because of biases on their training data. We'll see this at the end of my presentation. They don't respect data privacy, so there's the risk of data leaks if you don't use the model in a controlled fashion. And there's a lack of common sense and reasoning. Although it would seem now that LLM is almost like another person, actually they don't understand what they're saying in the way that we understand, but they simulate it. It's just a mathematical formula that they're really carrying out. So we give meaning and feeling to a model, but actually that model has no meaning or feeling. They just repeat patterns that they've seen during their data training. That's their intelligence. That it's limited. Another limitation is that they can't interpret complex instructions very well. That means that the person that interacts with the system needs to be able to control the prompt engineering. This is a skill that I think in the future we all need to have if we're going to maximize the way we use these kind of models, especially if we are involved in a profession that requires the use of these models to be quicker or to generate better ideas. And finally, LLMs are easy to pirate, either by prompt attacks or by prompt injection, which makes them very vulnerable to cyber attacks. So when we use LLMs, we need to have two things very clear in mind. Firstly, they shouldn't be used to publicize any sort of final content without any human supervision. The drafts that they generate are really good. Somewhere between 6 and 80% of the final version can be generated by an LLM. But it's really important that the human supervising is an expert in the subject to understand what tweaks need to be done or what hallucinations the model have, and not fake news. They need think when something isn't right. You need to have criteria. The editor or the corrector needs to know about the subject, otherwise you're going to think that something that the model says is true, and really they've just invented it. Something else that's clear is that it's important not to use these LLM to take key decisions, to take major decisions, because that has an effect on people's lives. This is regulated by the EU Act, so you just can't do it. We shouldn't understand that this isn't a great idea. If we now talk about why it's not being adopted more quickly, why artificial intelligence is being adopted more quickly, what are the hurdles that we're not overcoming? Why isn't AI being taken on board more quickly? I think that there are three hurdles. Two that we need to overcome, the first two, and one that needs to be included in this list because it's our ability to absorb technological changes that have a radical impact on the way our society works. So the third point is a barrier that's there on purpose, I'd say, that we need to work on. We don't want it to disappear before time. So let's start with ethical considerations. Responsible AI is a relatively new field, and what it deals with is the intersection between technology, user experience, which is how you interact with the machines, ethics and society. And all of this is really important when we talk about generative AI, because it's not just a technological issue, but rather it's the impact that it has, how we interact, what generative AI can do and what it can't do. And then, of course, we've got the legal side of things, which is going to be increasingly important, and is already there. And we've been looking at this for several years now. Even so, we need a public debate where we talk about what we want the impact of AI to be on our lives. How can we guarantee that AI systems don't discriminate based on race, gender, or other characteristics, what tasks we want to automate and what we don't want to automate, what do we want to be still in the hands of humans. Whatever those kinds of tasks that are boring and repetitive or too heavy that we don't want to do and that AI could do a lot better. They're going to create different kind of mistakes, but humans make mistakes, and maybe machines can reduce that. And how do we want this to have an impact on health, welfare, the media, agriculture, art, sciences, the whole range of areas where we need to pick up the reins and decide where we want to put our limits, where the frontiers should be set. Something else that I think is important to deal with as soon as possible is how our critical and rational abilities are going to evolve if we stop describing and we just allow ChatGPT to do that. I'm worried about that because when I write, it's my way of thinking. I put my thoughts down. Everybody has their way of doing things, but what happens if we no longer do it, or future generations no longer write? What's the impact of this on our brain, on our evolution as a species and as a society? And these are questions that we need to ask, because depending on the response that you get, we're going to design systems in one way or another, so that future generations will interact with these systems in one way or another. So it's a relevant question. Here you've got 6 principles of a responsible AI or accountable AI, because there are a whole series of principles. These are the Microsoft ones, but each organization has its own. Here you can see justice. AI systems should treat people fairly, reliable and robust. Safety and privacy. AI need to be safe and respect privacy. They also need to be accessible to everybody. They need to be inclusive. Of course, they have to be understandable. People should be able to understand that they're interacting with a machine, what the limitations of the machine are, what the advantages of this. And this is the user's experience has a key role there. And then accountability. So large technological companies, and increasingly non-technological companies, have a team actually usually to make sure that these are met, these principles are met when there are systems with AI components. I actually led the team that was dealing with this issue in Twitter from 2020 to 2022. And although recently these teams are beginning to disappear a little bit more, we need to keep on board. We should have people dealing with this all the time. I wanted to now share a more practical way of getting responsible AI. When we train our LLMs, we need to think about how we train them so that they meet three characteristics. Firstly, that they be honest, they're useful, and inoffensive. These three characteristics actually kind of fight each other, because an LLM that's very honest could maybe say offensive things to you or inappropriate things. Or an LLM that's inoffensive is so inoffensive that it actually doesn't reply to any questions that it feels risks. So it's no longer useful in a business context. So, for example, you could be asking about how to promote a product amongst a different segment of the population. It might say, no, I can't discriminate for age or race. Well, it depends on the company's policy whether you want your employees to be able to do that or not. What I'm saying is that these three values are in tension. They're fighting with each other. So for this kind of models, as I was saying, to understand a little bit about what we're talking about and how we want to fine-tune this, whether we want the system to be more honest or more inoffensive. The human-computer interaction is really important. These huge models, and here you can see the previous slide, need to be trained, as we said, automatically on large amounts of data, including internet. And we need to know which responses are considered as good and bad. As we said earlier, they don't know the difference between good and bad. And this can be done via human supervision, via a technique called RHF. There are other techniques that require less human intervention, but the principle behind this is that we train these models when they've already got a lot of data and experience. We need to explain to these machines what our human preferences are and feedback using human feedback, saying, oh, this replies better than this one, or this one's good and this one's bad. It's not so much a technological progress, but something that is part of the human-computer interaction and expressing our preferences. Moving on to the second obstacle, which is sustainability. With the increase in number of data, the amount of computer power needed to create AI has actually multiplied by 850 in just 2 years. It's huge. There are many people that question whether this rate is sustainable, and several of us think, well, maybe not. That these models are now sufficiently powerful that we don't need to carry on acquiring more sources, more parameters, but that actually we've got sufficient now, and we don't need to carry on consuming energy when we could be using this energy for other, more important things for humankind. Here you can see the amount of electricity consumption and CO2 pollution in comparison to humans. In this slide here, you can see the impact of these models in comparison to the impact of humans over our lives. In the case of GPT-3, its training led to the emissions of 288 tons of CO2. And this is equivalent, more or less, because these are calculations I made, that 57 people make throughout their lives. They cost over $4.6 million. A lot of money, a huge economic and energy-based investment. In the case of GPT-4, as the number of parameters shot up to 100 million, it emitted 600 tons of CO2. That's equivalent of the amount of CO2 emissions that 120 people emit during their lifespan. And it's something that makes you think, is the solution, or should progress really reside on greater energy consumption, the creation of more and more data, or is that not necessarily? I've got a few recommendations for LLM sustainable uses here. It comes from Hugging Face. Firstly, use models that have already been trained rather than training your own model. If it's a small model, it doesn't have these problems, but when you're talking about this number of parameters, it's problematic. Use smaller models, adapt models that are fine-tuned to your context, use a cloud infrastructure and optimize your model. And what I mean by that, there are ways of not contributing to energy consumption, which has shot up recently. Well, all of this, we can talk about the third obstacle that's preventing quicker AI adoption, which is ourselves. Actually, we in society need to decide at what rate, at what speed we want to achieve this. Historically, it's important to remember that society's ability to change is a key factor. We should remember, perhaps, when electricity was invented. Can anybody imagine how long it took to replace, for example, steam in factory? Well, 40 years from 1880 until 1920 approximately, since electricity was invented until it was adopted massively. So it took electric engines needed 45 years, actually. There was something that was very slow. So you're part, a key part of this revolution. In addition to understanding a little better the technology that's behind generative AI, you need to take part in events such as today's event, think about to what extent you want to delegate decisions in machines as a society. And as users of these models, maybe we can choose what sort of models we want to interact with and which we don't. And checking that the prompts that we use to consult these models are both diverse and inclusive, because they lead to tremendous impact of the results we want. For example, here are two examples of prompts, responsible prompts. One is for a text-to-image model, and the other is to generate text. As you can see, if we don't give sufficient details, the model will assume or accept what you see most frequently in its corpus, the corpus that it's been trained on. So all the biases of this corpus or of society actually will be reflected in the result that it offers. Here you can see an examples, very typical examples. If you ask for a image generation model, what a lawyer looks like, or what lawyers look like in general, initially you get these kind of images, but if you refine it, if you want a mixed race female lawyer, then they can generate that, but you have to ask for it. Another one is a typical example of a smart student. This is a different. In English is even more evident because there's no gender markers. So to conclude, it's difficult. It takes a bit more to create responsible prompts, and it depends on us, and not just to eliminate bias. Of course, this reflects the training data, in this case, internet. And with that, I'd like to finish my presentation. Thank you so much. Thanks, Teresa, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. And do enjoy this interesting event. Thank you.
Ahora, muy bien. No sé. Les decía que...
I was saying, first of all, thanks to the people that have spoken before and have introduced magnificently the roundtable on generative AI. Thanks to Ariadna, because I think she's actually calmed us down a little bit when she spoke about responsible AI, when she spoke about people, about ethics. I think that actually helps us be a little bit more calm. And thanks also to Susanna for having given us a context of AI in the EU and where the progress is being made in the EU. It's time for ethics. It's also time for legislation. It's time for the law. The EU is just proving that the law is on our side. So thanks for this very inspiring talk. I'd also like to say welcome to those that are following us now from 29 countries around the world. Those of you that are spending some time with us in this situation. So thanks for being there. Thanks for supporting us. And thanks for informing of this conference. And thanks for making sure it has international projection. We're hoping that you stay with us this afternoon and, of course, tomorrow. And we return now to Bilbao, to this panel session, to this Paraninfo, this emblematic place, which is kept for special occasions, and this is a very, very special occasion. If we now look at the panel, because we are behind time, today's roundtable to open the Congress is on generative AI and how it's being implemented in business and in administration in a sustainable way. I've got 6 women with me who can tell us about how important entrepreneurship is in technology, and they're going to use their experience to understand where AI is heading in the real world, in the real world of business. If it's okay with you, just a small introduction to who you are. We want to get to know you, your activities. I'm going to ask you to be very, very brief. Time is our enemy. So let's start with Pilar, and then with the others. We'll get the virtual participants to introduce themselves at the end. Thank you, everybody, for this. I'm a IT engineer. I'm a specialist in cybersecurity. You can't hear me. Can I introduce myself? I introduced the others, but I introduced myself. I thought you already knew me. My name's Ana Aranz. I'm the Deputy Dean for Students and Research at Deusto University. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here because I'm replacing somebody who couldn't be here with us today, which is the Dean of the legal faculty, Gemma Thomas. It's for me an honor that she asked me to replace. And now, Pilar, I apologize. Yes, now. My name's Pilar Vila. I'm an IT engineer. I'm an expert in cybersecurity. Just like AI, cybersecurity is everybody. Had all different sides to it. I initially spent time in computer peripheries. That is when you have to take things to court and you have to prove certain things. That's why my company is called Forensic Security, because it's our forensic experts that have to understand whether data have been stolen from a company, how long ago that happened. We're called when things have already gone wrong, for example, when the computers crashed or the mobiles crashed. So we thought there must be a way of improving our lives. So we concentrate on offering preventive services because we realized that there wasn't a lot of awareness of these problems out there. Once we go to companies start asking us for help, not just to solve problems that have already happened, but also to prevent them happening in the future. That's why we got into hardware hacking, and we provide packages and services to offer protection to businesses and industry. That's a bit of a summary of what we do. My name is Victoria Balbuena. I'm in charge of internationalization in CIBE, cybersecurity once again. For those of you who don't know what INCIBE, it's the National Institute for Cybersecurity, which has a key role today when AI and the digital transformation is so transparent, which is to increase people's and businesses' cybersecurity skills. INCIBE has a key role in strengthening the national cybersecurity industry as well. And that's why we have programs within INCIBE to support entrepreneurs and also to assist companies in growth. That's what I do. We help those companies grow internationally. I've got a degree in business management and a master's in business internationalization. I've lived in the US for 2 years. When I returned, I won't tell you when that was, I decided to concentrate on the world of internationalization, where I've spent many years. I won't say how many, but what I'm trying to do is internationalize technology. And of course, over in the last, especially the last 18 months, AI has been very, very present in all debates, in all international events on cybersecurity that we attend. Our companies and the ones that are here, great in the Basque Country, that support us are cutting edge. They really are, and very much appreciated in international markets. Thank you. My name's Maria José Barrena from Lipigenia. I'm a biochemist, and I've got a master's in regenerative medicine. And our ultimate aim is to look after people's health. We use new tools to find out how people's habits and routines influence their metabolic function, both personally and those things that are inside our bodies. That means microbiome, with all the information that we've got, for example, traditional analysis that you get. We actually prepare a precise, personalized care plan so that we promote health and prevent disease by detecting all the imbalances that each organism has. For us, it's key to have AI in this because we're generating all kinds of data that we can't draw conclusions from and present those conclusions to society in our projects and all the research and innovation that we do. This is key, AI. And in addition to that, our initiative guarantees people's health and meets the sustainability goals, especially items 3 and 8. And remotely, we've got Nuria. Nuria, please do go ahead if you can hear us. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nuria Avalos. I'm Repsol Director of Single Agenda and of SIA, which is an association that was created 2 years ago to promote data use in AI in business. Thank you, Nuria. Elena, are you there? Elena, we can't hear you. You've muted. You've turned your microphone off. Now we can hear you. Thank you so much. I apologize. My name is Elena Ibanez. I'm the founder of Singularity Expert, which is an AI platform that predicts the jobs of the future so that people can start training for them today. What's really important about this is that we are an AI platform, is that we use AI is something that we use to look at those jobs of the future. That is, all those jobs and all the different roles in a company, and in a company in which there's so much unemployment and so many jobs that haven't been covered because of a lack of knowledge or a lack of qualification. What we've done is provided these visibility to all the jobs of the future. For example, algorithm auditor. This is related to the one that we just spoke. Or, for example, ethics experts in AI use, or bioremediation, biorecycling, bacteria, experts in material sciences, so that they're more efficient buildings, all kinds of professions that youngsters and adults don't know about and don't choose. And because of this lack of knowledge, they don't train, they don't learn them, and that's a loss to society and a loss to them. So for us, AI isn't a how, but is a what for. Thank you so much. And finally, Patricia. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Patricia Aceves. Firstly, I'm from Asturias. You can tell that by my accent. I'm an economist. I'm a specialist in blockchain and AI. I'm in charge of an association called Asturias AI, which tries to democratize artificial intelligence for everybody at all levels. As we saw earlier in the initial keynote speech, it's a lot of hype surrounding LLMs, but people in the street don't know what they are. So we need to get this information down to the people in the street. All kinds of people need to know about this so that they can apply AI in their day-to-day existence. In our association, via personalized courses for SMEs, for lawyers, for anybody that wants to be educated, we adapt it for everybody. We also organize webinars and podcasts, so we're trying to democratize AI. In addition to being in the association, I also work in a technology park in the fields of active aging, because it's important to include the human face to these machines, but in a complementary way, and to look more closer at human skills. People keep saying that all sorts of jobs are going to be wiped out. So it's a complementary. Thanks to all 6 of you. If we now move on to what we're going to be talking about today, which is artificial intelligence and the impact of artificial intelligence, limits and opportunities, I wanted to just ask you a brief question which is directly related to your projects, AI, sustainability, and how sustainability contributes in your organizations to strategy, whether it be organizational strategy or and what sort of limits, restrictions, or opportunities do you see in this strategy, AI strategy? Can I start? In cybersecurity, hackers use AI tools. We are always behind them, so AI for us is key to detecting strange patterns, to see if there's an internal hacker, help analyze different alerts. There are millions of different applications that we could use. And if you can manage more data and more quickly, and of course this always has to be, we feel, supervised by humans, it gives us so much support that it's going to make us more skilled as defenders from hackers. That's from a cybersecurity viewpoint. And it's something key. It's true what we said earlier when we spoke about sustainability, circular energy. Within that, we try to adapt as much as possible. We never buy new equipment. We always reuse parts. We work with hardware. We create our own hardware. We try to reuse as many parts as we can. This really depends on manufacturers and the type of software that you also want to use in the hardware, but we consider that a lot because we want to be as sustainable as possible. But undeniably, we need to progress. We can't just stop the development of AI. We can't stop making hardware. The way I see it, we can't prevent that. We need to measure its impact. And as we progress, we need to tweak. We need to balance things, because all of this is going to help us balance this CO2 footprint that we make with our sector and with other sectors. Let's try to strike a balance with everything, such as try to minimize. But if we think that we're going to stop this, and that's going to make more sustainability, then we're very, very wrong. Let's get this mobile phone that is main, that can actually use old software as well. This is something that in the market you see. You can see that older mobile generations can't use new operating system versions. Let's have a hardware that lasts for longer. These are just small examples, but let's not stop progress because we fear sustainability, because it has to go hand in hand. We can have no progress. We can't separate the two. We need to do them together, I feel.
Pues yo os puedo dar la opinión que supone el avance.
I can give you the opinion of how much AI has passed in the internationalization of cybersecurity companies, which is what I know best. In the past, internationalization required the creation of a product catalog and getting your little suitcase together, docking and going and knocking door to door. I think one of the speakers today said to try to stop all these business travel and use video conferences, and that's what AI is for. AI is very useful to reduce costs, to reduce times in market studies, in location serve, translations for webs, in automation. So if AI is not used in internationalization strategy for companies, means that you'll probably be left behind your competitors. And if you're left behind your competitors, you run a very, very high risk of expanding your business. Use technology, apply technology, lose fear of technology. And if you don't know, go and use experts such as my colleague Pilar or the others that are with me here to this round table, because in the end, artificial intelligence, when they're actually well used, can benefit us all. We need to strike a balance between use and responsible sustainable use of everything that helps us do business. Thank you, Victoria. We are still caring for people in the way that we've always been taught to, and yet AI is still in research innovation projects. So in all our projects, we've got so much data about how people work, and we also use innovative tools. We've still got artificial intelligence in research and innovation projects with which we want to prepare care plans or define platforms so that care plans reach everybody. They're as accessible as possible with the innovative knowledge of current molecular disciplines, which we're only just starting out with today. I don't know how I'm not lucky enough to have a tool that actually you can say, oh, we've got a platform for AI for a care plan that I can put in a mobile. We're still working on projects, research and innovation projects, but we're working on it. I'm hoping that this year we'll manage to take initiative. Thank you. Let's carry on with the people. Let's start with Nuria. Nuria? As I said earlier, I've got two roles. My company's been using AI for many years now. Fortunately, with all the data that we've managed, we've included and used AI in our digital program for many processes, for example, demand prediction, predictive maintenance. As I said earlier, the association that I representative actually was set up for this reason, to help Spanish industry use AI, and the more the better, because AI use, of course, includes companies' competitiveness, their sustainability. We believe that if you use AI, GDP will increase, there'll be a greater job creation, it will make us more competitive as companies and as people. Elena, please do turn your microphone on. Same thing happened to me again. It was interesting what Nuria was saying earlier. It's actually more a question, not so much a question of how our platform, our algorithm uses AI. I'd rather concentrate on how we recommend jobs with a future, so that people today can train for jobs that have a future, with a future. As I said earlier, there are AI now incorporated in many departments of companies, for example, in human resources, for analysis, or people that come from different fields, for example, computational linguistics. We're also recommending, as Nuria said, in the level of processes, there are very few people getting trained in RPA. But in the field of cybersecurity, we've got a platform that just specializes in this field to guide people towards 30 different jugs in this way to adapt to a person's profile. Not everybody needs to be an engineer. The importance that we give to AI is that any person, whatever area of knowledge that they are interested in, can use AI in this field, whether it be in social sciences, in humanistics, not just in economies. And if they just get involved in AI, they're going to be more employable because AI is being adopted so rapidly. If we don't help people find a role, then it's not going to be so easy to find these opportunities. Thank you so much. And finally, Patricia. As Elena said, when we founded AI Asturias, which belongs to a different organization called SPINAI, we're in other organizations and networks. I'm in charge of Asturias, and I think similar in all over Spain, there are very, very few companies that of a certain that are large in size that can use AI, and yet there are lots of smaller companies around Spain, SMEs, micro companies that hear about ChatGPT, but people read this and hear about this, but when they can't see whether it's applicable to their day-to-day work, or if it is applicable, they're not interested in it. They're not going to pick up a manual to start studying maths or algorithms. So our association is very diversified in different training fields, and we concentrate on specifically adapting the training for different organizations so that they can apply on a day-to-day basis to improve their strategy and, of course, the company's profits in the end. And, of course, to help youngsters that are studying to make them realize that you don't have to necessarily be an engineer, as Elena said, or physicist or a mathematician, or everything that's involved in these STEM subjects, but you could also be a language expert, for example, as we spoke about, natural language, or philosopher with this idea of the ethics behind AI. Everybody has a role to play in this area. So let's try to democratize and make what's possible feasible and simple as well, so that everybody can understand it. Thank you so much. And to close, we now know each other a little bit more. We know a little bit more about your projects. What we'd like to know is just briefly for you to talk about those people that have inspired you. Who inspired you? Those people that you've found along the way when you've been initiating a project, people that have supported you. And what about the hurdles that you've had to overcome in your entrepreneurship projects as women? Just make it brief, please. In my case, I always tell the same story. I studied IT because at my school they installed some computers. I'm not going to tell you when, and I started programming. I don't know how old I was, but I was pretty small, and I was so fascinated with what you could do with the computer. Then I saw war games. All of this was a whole mix of things, and I really enjoyed it, and I was really bad at drawing. I could choose between drawing and IT, and I thought, okay, I'll go for IT because I'm really bad at drawing. I discovered this world at school at the end of the day. And it was key for me. After that, who have I met along the road? I get a great deal of support from the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I've got a friend from Galicia, and we support each other. You find out about the experience of others, and that helps me a great deal. We support each other. We provide each other with information. We get into information. For me, the entrepreneurial ecosystem is actually vital. The fact that these events are organized, that we can come together, we can cry if necessary, because that gives you the energy to carry on and the knowledge to move forward. I was listening to Pilar and I thought, wow, I'm going to hear what Pilar says not to repeat on the benchmark. But it's difficult for me to choose one person, one thing that inspired me. And I agree with one Pilar. Rather than it being one person that inspired me, I said, I could say, in the world of innovation, it's Marie Curie or Ada Lovelace. These aren't real benchmark. A real benchmark for me is, for example, Teresa, who organizes these great events, or Pilar, who doesn't have any problem in the world of forensics. If you think there's few women in the world of technology, well, in the world of forensics, even fewer. So what's important, I think, here is to have really clear in your mind where your place is, where your expertise, and then use those people that know more than you do, those that can cover your loopholes, support each other and support others, and all together achieve greater results for all projects. I think mine's genetic, because my father started in the Mondragon Cooperative as a founder. And even though he might say no, I think it's something that's genetic. In my family, it's always been like like you said earlier, well, come on, get this done, do this, do that. Also, when I was in an environment in which I had an idea, for example, Big Berilan, I called up this organization. I said, I'd like to do this. And they said, OK, come here. So I got the support of many organizations, and we've been moving forward ever since. And of course, the family support. What about those people that are out there remotely? Nuria, are you still there? I've got a different kind of experience because I studied economics. I was an auditor. And in 2008, I joined Repsol in a financial field. So if I had to talk about something that made me end up in this field, it's, for example, perhaps working for this company. This company is able to allow you to move into different departments. I started out in innovation, then blockchain, and over the last 6 years I've been in AI. For me, I've been able to train and get involved in those fields that I think are attractive and that allow me to move forward. Thank you, Elena. There are 4 names, because when I started my project, I went to see 4 fantastic women to tell you what was in my head. The first was Laura Rojas Marcos. She gave me all the motivation that I needed. Cristina Aranda, who gave me a piece of advice that I'm not going to share with you now, but which is something that's actually been very useful over all last years. Mercedes Bulik, who helped me connect and become a visibility. And Teresa Larcos, I'll never forget her. I had a cup of coffee with her in the beginning, and these 4 women, for me, I'd like to pay homage to them now because they really did help me, and I'd like to say thanks to them. Thank you, Elena. Patricia. The micro. Sorry, now I'm just been. It's Elena that's fault. As Elena said, well, my benchmarks, I studied economics because I loved statistics and maths. So with these tools, I wanted to solve problems. Problems in the world, for example, reducing poverty and unemployment. And at that time, there was no such thing as big data or business intelligence or AI. And when it came about, I said, okay, this is the tool, the key tool with which I can improve the quality that people enjoy to a certain extent. I've got a physical disability, and people that have a physical disability find it very difficult professionally and personally, of course, because society puts barriers in our way. So in our case, I've tried to tear down all those barriers, and with this initiative, I decided to help those people that didn't have weren't as lucky as I was, whether they be the disabled or people that hadn't been educated sufficiently and hadn't been able to progress, so that they didn't get left behind. And in this field, I was lucky enough to find people that provided me with a great deal of vitamins, shall we say. One of these is the person who invited me to this event, which is Teresa Larcos, who's also from Asturian. I don't know if this is an Asturian thing, but these are people and that have helped you along the road, and that you need to learn from them and try to support them in every way that you can. Thank you so much, Patricia. To conclude, one inspiring sentence, and when I say sentence, make it one inspiring sentence to motivate us at a time in which when you're down, when things aren't going so well, and that may have helped you along the way, that have inspired you. A sentence that Churchill supposedly said, I don't know if it's true, but in summary, is success is getting up from failure. That's it. Without agreeing with Pilar, a sentence that I've seen in some of my social media, it's better to try and fail than to feel sorry for never having tried at all. Follow your passion. Those people that are out there remotely, Nuria, it's not a sentence, but for me, when you can't cope anymore, go for a massage and have a rest. Elena, I just say, magic requires action. Patricia, there are no limits. If you want to, you can. Just to summarize, these are women that support each other, women that grow and that help society grow with women. You're an example. In today's panel session, the women that have spoke before the panel session have been an example. They'll carry on being examples because they're entrepreneurs, because they believe, because they grow, and because they support each other. To finish and to close, let's now just hand the floor over to Nerea so that Nerea Ibanez can close this session. Thank you, Nerea, the president of ASPEGI.
Bueno, pues eskerrik asko. Buenas tardes, noches.
Good afternoon, good evening. It really is a pleasure, and I do mean that. Many of the ideas and inspiration that have been mentioned this afternoon, so I don't want to repeat what's been said, but I do want to highlight a few things that have inspired me. Firstly, I have to introduce myself. I'm Nerea. I come from ASPEGI, is the Association of Professional women managers and professionals and entrepreneurs in Spain. There are over 600 of us that are fighting for equality of opportunities, professionally and personally. It's great as a Speggy to be here and to support you in this path. Teresa, thank you for inviting me, because it's a common path, it's a shared path. One of the things I wanted to say this afternoon is from a conversation that I had outside with somebody, and I had to make this moment to try to use the opportunities of networking that these events allow us, because there are people here and behind the screens that are very, very enriching. And it was something that this person said, because it summarizes what we're trying to find when we talk about women, technology, and sustainability. And Montse said that AI, comes from an artifice. An artifice is a tool for intelligence. Intelligence needs to help us become freer. So thanks, Montse, for your inspiring contribution. We talk about artificial intelligence to serve people, that's accessible, inclusive. People have spoken about the concerns related to artificial intelligence, highlighting the importance of values. Artificial intelligence offers us tools, but we need these responsibility and these values, something that's always been there and that we need to carry on feeding, caring for, and working on as people. And we've spoken about artificial intelligence to serve people. That needs, of course, to be accessible and inclusive, so that everybody can access it, so that we have a better, fairer, more prosperous world. That's just a few ideas. We've spoken about ideas, talent, technology, and sustainability. And I just wanted to say that the world is equal, or there is no world. The world is technological, or there is no world. It's all-embracing technology, and it's sustainable, or it won't exist. Women, inspiring women, women that are inspired, people that are inspired, women that are creative, that learn, and that make the world a better place to work and live, because they work every single day to be free and responsible. And I think this is something that should drive us forward every day. We women are already leaving our mark in the fields of technology and sustainability. We're inspiring others, working to create a better world. Creative women are using their genius and talent to create new solutions to the challenges of society. In technological industries, we women are challenging stereotypes every day, showing their worth in roles that have been traditionally dominated by men. From coding and AI to cybersecurity, engineering, we women are showing that we are able and that we're at the cutting edge of technological revolution. Brave, talented women that prove that there's no limits for women in the fields of technology and sustainability. I think this is a key question for us to build this future that we want. The future that we want, not the technology wants. I was a little bit shocked by the graphs. We need to carry on using technology to assess people, and we people need to decide what we want this technology to provide us with. And finally, to say thanks once again, so that places, networks, And spaces such as this are possible. I'd say thanks to all people and institutions that make this possible. Thanks for their support and collaboration, because they've allowed us to all come together and analyze and reflect upon what the digital era can offer us. This support, which as institutions and entities you provide us with, means that we have strength to carry on promoting women's participations also in technological leadership. And of course, I shouldn't forget all those professionals that are going to be taking part as speakers and panel members, and those that already have done so, because you know that your knowledge, your experience inspires. Thanks for sharing your time generously and your knowledge in this forum, and for converting us into benchmarks. And I've discovered some benchmarks today for those women who dream of leading a world, and of leading our own lives with the assistance of technology. And I, of course, need to also thank those that have attended this edition, those that are here online, and those that are here personally. So please make use of these next 2 days of learning, in the conviction that the ideas and the reflections that are generated here will help us create a fairer, more prosperous future. Thank you so much.
Inspiring women leaders.
Y ahora Nerea y yo os vamos a invitar a todas, gracias a todas las instituciones y corporaciones que nos han apoyado, a hacer un networking de alto nivel con todas las referentes y los referentes que han venido, que se interesan por la diversidad en la innovación, y agradecer a Ana Muga, que ofrece en este cóctel y que ha venido, que es emprendedora y empresaria, que nos va a ofrecer sus vinos para que este networking sea más agradable. Así que muchas gracias, Ana, por venir con tu equipo y venir con tus vinos a nuestro evento. Muchas gracias y vamos todos a hacer networking.